right, let's get started. Good afternoon, my name is Ben Brodigan. I manage a group called Advanced Learning Projects at Penn State University. We are a design and development shop where we kind of build and test mobile apps and different emerging technologies to see their feasibility for the classroom. Raise your hand if you've ever used a drive-thru. Whether it's for your morning coffee or your Big Mac on the way home from work because your wife's making her famous eggplant parm. Right? We all have. Everybody's used the drive-thru. Why? Because it's quick, it's faster, it's easy, and I don't have to get out of my car. It's the American way. Right? But when you think about it, it's obvious. Why wouldn't I use it? Well, it turns out you might want to think twice. Did you know that the average wait time in a drive-thru during peak meal hours is exactly the same as it is if you were to walk in? And did you know that 2 out of every 10 drive-thru orders are wrong? They're wrong. That's why when you ever get drive-thru, you give the bag to the person next to you and say, better check the bag. Right? It's because 2 out of 10 are wrong. Well, when we talk about social media in the classroom, some of these rules apply. It sounds great. It sounds obvious. Why wouldn't I do it? It's simple. But to be truly impactful in the classroom, there are a few things you need to think about because there are some challenges involved. The first one dealing with design. When you look at integrating social media into a structural design process, there are some things to think about. How do I pose questions to my students on social media? How are they going to find them? What's that process look like? But more importantly, how am I going to manage all those responses as they're coming in? Am I going to use a hashtag? Well, what hashtag am I going to use? How are they going to use it? Are they going to use it or are they going to forget? So there's some things to consider. Because when done well, social media can spark global discussion and it can be truly impactful and transformative. Well, at Penn State, we wanted to tackle these problems. And rather than using Twitter as it is, we decided to build on it. And we built a tool called Rally. And Rally is, like I said, built on Twitter. It's built on the Twitter API. And rather than tweets, faculty members log in using their Twitter account and they create a board for their course. And students can then search for these boards and explore other courses. And on a board, faculty can post challenges. These are pointed questions or prompts or discussion topics and allow students to easily respond to these using Twitter. Here's what one looks like. This is for a COM 180 course. So when instructors log into Rally, they're able to create a board and create a challenge. And they can insert a question. So in this case, how has social media led to more or better communication? They can embed a media asset if they want to, an image or a YouTube video. And then students have the chance to respond. This is an open response challenge. And then there's a tweet button. So when they hit tweet in Rally, it's actually tweeting on their behalf to Twitter. But you see here, right here are a set of hashtags. The magic with Rally is it automatically appends the right hashtags to every tweet. So when I click that what others are saying button at the bottom, I get a clean, simple, aggregated list of all those responses without any errors. Yeah?
These become world viewable tweets?
They do. They're completely global, viewable on Twitter. This just helps to aggregate and simplify the experience a bit. So this is an open response. This is a multiple choice challenge. So the faculty member has a question here, what does copyright protect? And they're able to add some choices that the student can choose. And based on their choice, in this case A, when I tweet that, it's marked appropriately on Twitter with the right tag. Also here we included the results. We found some faculty actually using Rally instead of something like iClickers in the course. Because during live classroom discussion, these tallies actually change in real time. So as engagements happen, we're able to see those. And we noticed a few things as we did this. Participation grew. With each new challenge, more students got involved. Lines blurred. When students responded to a challenge in one course, we saw replies from students that weren't in that course. You had multi-course interactions, multi-program interactions, able to get outside of the box we call a course. And finally, new engagements. A faculty member in our global programs used Rally on a trip to South Africa. And we saw that community members in South Africa were actually using Rally to talk to students after the trip. These really rich discussions happened. This was a feedback from a student on a faculty member's SRTE, or end of year review. I really liked seeing what my classmates were thinking in real time. I mean, social media is powerful, Twitter is powerful, and we tried to build a tool that wrapped simplification around it so it's easily integrated even more. With that said, we want to try to open Rally up to more users. We want to work with other institutions. So if you are interested in this or want to see more, or we can talk more about Twitter at your institution or what Rally can do at other schools, because the goal is to see discussions on boards happening across institutions. So please feel free to reach out to me via email or my hashtag @Brodigan. That's all I have, short and sweet. Thought I'd leave some time for questions, if there are any. Yes? Yeah, sure. So Penn State has 24 campuses across Pennsylvania, and some of the Commonwealth campuses share programs. So students sharing one course across multiple campuses. They used Rally, so one board, students from multiple campuses were able to collaborate at the same time. It really provided a much more immersive experience to this. The other one, and I mentioned this briefly, was the multiple choice challenge, just using it for in-class surveys. So you could see that live tally of responses coming in real time. One professor dropped iClickers and chose to use this over that. Not only because the clickers cost money, but because those engagements, those responses were actually saved to Twitter and you could access them later. It's just yeah.
What is Rally? Is it like an open source software platform that can be installed anywhere?
It's a web-based Twitter client.
So could a school run it locally, or is it something that Penn State would always host?
It could run it locally, yes. Yes, that is a possibility. Right now, and I should have mentioned this, but this is an experiment. The Rally isn't a full university-wide service at Penn State right now. We're experimenting with this, seeing what the feasibility looks like, and if there's interest in other institutions, we think it would be a neat collaborative effort. Yeah?
Are there ways to lock it down, the login for institutions, so it's not on the web?
Well, with Twitter, obviously everything's global, everything's open, unless the student sets security settings on their own Twitter account. However, one of the issues that Rally doesn't solve is the grading problem with social media. So if I'm requiring students to respond to a challenge for a credit or a grade, how do I kind of integrate that in the LMS? How do I deal with that? So we're exploring with integrating our shibboleth with Twitter to see what that looks like. So if I see a Twitter handle here on the back end that's attributed to this user ID, I can then import grades and other data. Yeah?
Do you have a cost associated with participation?
No, no cost. No cost at all.
You like that?
Yeah, so do we. Yeah.
Any applications that are outside of classroom engagement with students? Is it being used by student life? Is it used by...
It's being used by students themselves. So we didn't lock down the ability to create boards. So student clubs and organizations can create their own things. You could use it for events. You could use it for any way to kind of survey things and organize content in one place, but still get the discussion out of it. Well, thanks again. You are released to dinner and cocktails. Thank you.